The Ulmer Institute was birthed out of a passion to heal hidden hurts, to recognize that there is a context, there's a culture, there's a climate that in and of itself is one of impending terror, impending trauma, and yet one can be resilient, one can be successful, one can be prosperous, one can be productive if given the right tools, if given the right processes, if given the right skills to overcome those realities and move into another reality that is successful and prosperous. The Ulmer Institute began actually with a trip to Israel that gave me a taste of what it was like to live there. That's not an exaggeration, because we were there and coming from dinner one evening on the beach, and all of a sudden the sirens go off. I thought it was an ambulance or whatever, and after a moment, doom! You hear this sound, this literally a bomb. And people coming out of cars, and they're leaving taxis in the streets, and they're running and they're scurrying, and we didn't know what to do. We were just turning around and round and round. But obviously something very traumatic was happening. The very climate, the very air was filled with fear and terror. And about 5 or 6 minutes later, the sirens stopped. People went back to their martinis, back to the beach, back to their restaurants, back to their homes, back to their cars, and went back to life as usual. And it dawned on me, there's something here. There's something not just in this culture, in this climate, but in this people, a resilience, an ability to not be stymied and stopped and hindered and halted by the realities of an impending terror, and yet to live through it and live beyond it. And again, I'm saying that's what I live in every day. 34 years of ministry and 34 years of leading an organization and seeing men and women who live and come to church and go to work and in and out every day, day in, day out, often in climates and in conditions of impending terror. And yet there's the possibility of resilience, the possibility of success. The young kid who sees his brother killed but did not get killed. The mother who watches her son blown away in a drive-by shooting. The friend who holds a friend who dies in his arms. The woman, the boy, the girl who's shot himself and yet thrives and lives beyond it, but lives with bullet holes and memories, even holes in their spirit, holes in their mind. How can they be healed? How can they be helped? It was this kind of passion that birthed the Ulmer Institute.
In the 40 years that I've been doing clinical work, one of the most fascinating things that I've seen is that trauma hides. You see a child acting out in school and you think ADHD, and yet the child is trauma impacted. The child is seeing their mom being beaten, and then they decide that beating people in school is an okay thing to do.
A lot of times we discover trauma along the way of treating other disorders. So for example, a lot of the research has pointed to how trauma usually doesn't pop up by itself. It's usually comorbid with other conditions like depression, like substance abuse, with various anxiety disorders. So when people come for mental health services, they're not coming in necessarily for trauma symptoms, but as we kind of get a better lay of the land, as we diagnose what's actually going on, we find out along the way that like, oh wait, this isn't just depression, this isn't just anxiety. You've actually experienced a very significant trauma in your life.
In a study we did a couple of years ago with an N of 900, one of the most interesting things that we found was that people didn't ascribe to having experienced trauma, but when you put traumatic events in front of them, they subscribed from 7 to 16 traumatic events, but they didn't see it as trauma. They saw it as a part of their normal lives. TUI is exciting because we're dealing with it in a comprehensive way, not just the treatment, but the treatment, the training of psychologists, and the research that backs up the treatment. So it's the integrative approach that is so significant. And I think we're unique in that we're looking to do community level intervention, not just individual treatment.
I do think there's a lot of wisdom in the three-pronged approach of research, training, and treatment, because often those are siloed. So the academy will kind of go off and do its own research and maybe not really talk to the practitioners doing the treatment, so that the treatment is informing the research, which is informing the treatment, which is informing the research, which is informing the training. So I think to have the collaboration across all three of those, I think it really makes the most sense as a comprehensive, integrated way to have the most impact.
So it's very important as we think of the development of social solutions, not just to start with treatment. This is often the way people develop social solutions. They think they have an accurate assessment of the problems and of the populations, so they begin with a solution. But in fact, the ideal way to organize an intervention is to connect research and training and treatment. We're going to have organizations like the Ulmer Institute. I think this is the best way for building local collaborations, for creating new allies, but actually there's something local organizations can do that no one else can do, which is describe the trauma.
The way trauma was defined before as a true deep mental health issue where you're crazy and you cannot cure from it, that made it very hard for people to address and to look at it. But in the last 20 years, it's a completely different scenario that has been coming up that is very, very hopeful. And this is one of the reasons actually why I created my institute, and why it's such an amazing pleasure to work with the Ulmer Institute, because finally we can do something at a mass level. Finally we can go into communities and work with the whole community.
We're invested in equipping faith leaders through sort of this cutting edge training. So we're hoping to partner with gathering groups of clergy, rabbis, folks that are faith leaders, to understand how to intervene early with others as well as monitor their own trauma exposure.
I'm really excited about the potential of partnerships and the collaboration that can happen between us and the Ulmer Institute, especially with regards to research, so that we can better understand how to treat trauma within this particular specific context in which so many people live.
Local communities and local organizations like the Ulmer Institute are the ones that respond to the contemporary situation, to the way old problems are expressed in new ways. And they are the best and the most fertile grounds for creating social solutions.
There's been a lot of work done on the treatment of individual trauma, but we haven't seen a lot in terms of treating trauma in the community. And one of the exciting things about TUI is we've had some interventions that we're looking to bring into the community that will bring healing in the community.
I'm excited about what the Ulmer Institute is doing, is because just it's an intervention of itself, just to kind of educate communities about these realities and what does this look like and how do people find help.
Another significant community intervention that we're in the process of building is a trauma helpline. The way this line will function is, say you call into TUI on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. The counselor who picks up that call will continue to call you every Tuesday at 2 until either you are in treatment with a local therapist, or you come into TUI for services, or you determine that you no longer desire services from us.
So once you take somebody with the personality of Bishop Ulmer and with the following that he has, the strength that he has shown in the community to be behind a project like this, to actually understand, get down to earth about it, name it, and do something about it, now that's pretty exceptional.
Our concern, our focus, our desire is to treat trauma, to train others to do trauma, and to do research for future generations as to how this phenomenon can be dealt with successfully and prosperously. Our shared experiences give us a shared expectation. an expectation of healing, an expectation of hope, an expectation of a tomorrow. That's what we're called to. That's what we're all about.